All right, guys, chapter 4, state management. Now, state is one of those things that gets explained very poorly very often, so I'm going to try to keep this very simple. Every web page is made up of data. If any of that data can change, then it has state. And that means that it has variances. It can be offered in multiple ways. Now, single page applications, state is very important because you only have the one file to offer them. And so the state that that file is in determines everything about what is happening with the app. I know that sounds obvious, but we're going to make it really clear, or abstract. I don't know which direction you're coming from, but we're going to make this really clear. This is our home route. This is the initial state of the home route. We know nothing about the person asking for it. We know nothing about what they want. They have nothing in the cart. They have not chosen a theme. There's nothing in the search bar. There is no state other than the initial state. This is all that we have. If we had a customer who had already added something to the cart and they were coming to our home route, we have to make sure that our state matches their experience. And so by that, we make sure that they have visibly an item in the cart that costs $100. And anytime that anything gets out of whack with that, like say if somebody had chosen one of these horrible themes for whatever reason, and they wanted to see that when they came back, but we need to make sure that everything about this initial state matches the experience that they expect. And this is what gets complex with a single page application. And this is why things like React have such intense state management scenes around them. Because whenever you're working within a single page application environment, every single thing matters. Now, I've got a few other little examples here that we're going to walk through, and I hope that this makes it very crystal clear for you what state is and how it works and why we need to take care of it. Thank you. Alright guys, so the plan for the first few videos is just we're going to walk through each of the tools that we're going to use, and then we're going to go through the app piece by piece and understand how it works, because it's 450 lines of code, so it's going to be a lot easier if we just go through it piece by piece, and especially if you understand what the tools are before we actually start working through that. And the most important tool is state management. There's a reason that we're starting with this, because this is all important in a single page application. We only have the one file. State is the only thing that matters. And so we are going to be walking through a couple different examples to help you understand how state works. And so I just plan on walking through each of these. I'm just going to rename it index.html so that we don't have to restart the server each time. Now, this one is going to be just very simple, but there's something wrong here. And this is really, really essential to understand. There's a reason that I'm walking us through this really dumb example, and I hope that it becomes clear when we get a couple chapters further on. So all we have is this button here, and it's just not working. And why would that be? Now, if you know anything about JavaScript, you should understand this is coming before the body, and the browser is coming through and trying to parse this, and as soon as it gets to the script, what it does is it stops everything, and it tries to parse the script, and then the script's telling it, hey, go check out this app and this button, and then the browser's like, bro, those don't exist, okay? I haven't even thought about those things yet. And so it's really essential to understand that the browser parses everything and the JavaScript's going to come first. So how do we fix that? Well, there's not really that hard way of fixing that, and that is we just move the script down. And if there's anything that's going to be really difficult or hard for the browser to parse through, especially if you have asynchronous stuff, async is a great thing to throw here. I usually just throw defer on there, and it's never gone wrong for me. I would love for somebody to correct me in the comments. I would love to know when is a bad time to use defer. Please give me some examples, because I have not found any online. But when we have defer on here, we can just click it, and all of a sudden, my state has changed. I live in California now. And here's the thing though, we click it again, nothing happens. So now our app has two states. We have the initial state that it offers when you open it, and you have the state after you click on it. Now, that's really simple. And well, you're like, oh, how do you fix it? Well, it's very simple. You just have to add a boolean that puts it back into the initial state. Or you can go crazy and go and do a variety of states. So in this version of the app, we have an initial state that is a button that says, I bet you won't click me, with a creepy face coming on. And then a little div underneath it is saying, man, don't do it. Just look at that face. Now, that's the initial state, and we offer a variety of states. So to tell the app that this button is going to be taking care of something called state, we just throw a little property on there called state. And we throw a property on that called pressed. And we're telling it that right now it's not been pressed yet. But we can make some functions that tell it what to do when it is pressed. Like maybe the div says, what? You actually did it? And the button's like, oh man, I like that. You can do that again. And then we could have another state after that where the div is like, oh, come on, now you're just being ridiculous. And the button's even over it now. It's like, have you no shame? And so how does this work? We have the initial state up here, which is what we defined as we define the app. And then we have a variety of other states that can be chosen from that point on based on the user's preferences. And with that, we just added an event listener that toggles a boolean. This is a very classic way to toggle a boolean. You just say it's true, now it's false. Because if it's false when it comes in, well, now it's true. And, vice versa. And then we can even say that, wait, what was the state whenever it came in? If it was true, then we can do this function. But if it's false, then we can do this function. And the thing is, this doesn't get defined until the user clicks it. Right there, we had this event listener. So we have this initial state. And then based on the user's interaction, they also have this state right here that they can choose to toggle between. And so the way that this works is that we have the initial state, and then once the user clicks, we can never go back to the initial state unless the user refreshes. And so we have three separate states. We have unclicked and false, clicked and true, and clicked and false, all with just one button and a div, and we have a variety of options. Now, this is nothing with just a button and a div, but think about that. We've just put in two things with two functions, and already we have a multitude of options that we need to be ready for. If we had local storage that would save their option, we would have to be, or a cookie or whatever, we would have to be ready for that state to be correct whenever the user came into the application. And so this is one of the most important things that we're going to have to worry about. And so when we worry about this, we want to make sure that we are doing this in a way that is sane and not in a way that is crazy. And it's pretty easy to be crazy whenever you don't declare your variables in a smart way. So, if you call your button yum yum, or your div yum yum, and your button, a button's always a button, by the way, BTN. But if you can call it bing bong, zip zap, dibble doobie, and that's the thing, it doesn't matter, but just imagine when you have an entire app, what are you going to do whenever you're looking in your console log, and instead of what we currently have, which is a state of pressed as false or a state of pressed as true, what we would have for this now is a state of dibble doobie, which is true. So when you're trying to debug your app, what does dibble doobie mean? None of us know. And so this is why it's important to name your variables in a smart manner whenever you're doing an application like this, because you're going to have global variables. It's going to happen, and you need to take care of them, and you need to keep track of them. And the only person who helps you in this is you. And that's just my small rant at the end of this episode. I'll see you in 12 hours.